In the dusty court records of 1380 London, a single sheet of parchment casts a long shadow over one of English literature's most revered figures. The document names Geoffrey Chaucer, the celebrated poet and civil servant, in a serious legal matter. This brief paper, a quitclaim, was filed by a woman named Cecily Chaumpaigne. It formally released Chaucer from all legal actions related to her Raptus. The word itself is jarring, and it immediately brings to mind the modern crime of rape. This short record, discovered centuries after Chaucer's death, forces a stark and uncomfortable confrontation with the man often called the father of English literature. It is a single, shocking word that stands in stark contrast to his popular image as a jovial observer of humanity. The details of the document are sparse but potent. Dated May 1st, 1380, the quitclaim is a formal release from any and all claims. Cecily Chaumpaigne, identified as the daughter of a London baker, absolved Chaucer of any legal responsibility. This was not a simple transaction. It involved other men as witnesses, including prominent figures with connections to Chaucer's own professional and social circles. The quitclaim effectively ended the legal dispute, whatever its precise nature may have been. It silenced the official conversation, but for modern readers, it raises 1,000 questions about what truly happened between the poet and this woman. The document's finality is what makes its mystery so enduring and so deeply unsettling. This quitclaim is not a confession of guilt, nor is it a declaration of innocence. It is a legal settlement. It functions as a tool to prevent any future lawsuits on the same matter. By signing it, Cecily Chaumpaigne effectively gave up her right to pursue Chaucer in court. Such settlements were common in the 14th century for a wide range of disputes, from property disagreements to violent assaults. The very existence of the document proves that a serious accusation was made, one that required the involvement of lawyers and influential witnesses to resolve. It suggests that something occurred that was significant enough to risk public scandal and legal consequences for a man of Chaucer's standing in London society. The context of Chaucer's life at the time makes this record even more compelling. By 1380, he was a man of considerable status. He held the important position of Controller of the Customs for the Port of London. He lived in a residence above Aldgate. He enjoyed the patronage of the royal court. He was not an obscure artist, but a well-connected public official moving in powerful circles. An accusation of Raptus would have posed a significant threat to his career and reputation. In modern English, its cognate, rape, has a clear and horrific meaning. However, in 14th century legal language, the term was more ambiguous. Its primary meaning was indeed sexual assault, a violent act of non-consensual intercourse. This was a serious felony commonly used in court records. To dismiss this definition would ignore the most straightforward, disturbing reading of the document. The gravity of that meaning is what makes the case haunting for Chaucer scholars. Scholars note Raptus could also mean other offenses. One major alternative meaning was abduction, carrying off a woman for a forced marriage, often to gain control of her property or inheritance. Still a coercive crime, but distinct from a purely violent sexual attack. After the Black Death, with severe labor shortages, Raptus took on a commercial sense. It could mean poaching a servant or poaching an apprentice, effectively stealing their labor. That reading gives a non-sexual interpretation of the charge. So the debate creates two very different narratives. If Raptus meant rape, Chaucer was accused of brutal sexual violence. We'd have to re-examine his writings, especially portrayals of women consent power through a darker lens. His humor might seem more cynical. His observations on human frailty might read as a knowing confession. The poet becomes a figure of deep moral complexity, possibly intertwined with a history of violence. That reading places a permanent asterisk beside his name. Conversely, if the charge meant labor poaching, the story shifts. Chaucer could have been in a business dispute, not a violent criminal. Perhaps he hired Cecily Chaumpaigne away from another household, leading her former employer to sue. The quitclaim could be a settlement to resolve the contractual conflict. Share in the comments, like and subscribe for more literary explorations.